1995, Hasbro CEO Alan Hassenfeld decided that despite previous unprofitable forays into interactive games, the market was now right for Hasbro to branch out again. An acquaintance, Tom Dusenbury, impressed Alan with his experience and enthusiasm for interactive games. Dusenbury was an intelligent and charismatic motivator with strong social skills. However, he had admittedly poor business operations skills, especially in regards to financial matters. Despite his inexperience in running a whole department, Alan hired Tom to become the general manager of Hasbro Interactive. Tom's acceptance of this position was partly motivated by the fact that he coveted Alan's title of Hasbro CEO and believed that if he did well as general manager of Hasbro Interactive, he would come to the attention of the board members who would eventually choose Alan's successor. Operations started out well at Hasbro Interactive. They started to break even very early in the division's life cycle and began to make substantial profits quickly. Forecasts looked good for Hasbro Interactive, who were capitalizing on the development of existing popular Hasbro board games such as Monopoly into interactive versions. Official revenue targets began to increase steadily, as well as rumors surrounding an informal $1 billion target. In 1998, Hasbro Interactive started falling short of revenue targets. However, many attributed this to the large acquisitions of external game rights being purchased by Dusenbury, and he continued to assure everyone that an upturn was coming. The employees started to quietly lose faith in the business, not voicing their concerns about missed deadlines and projects consistently running over budget. However, in 1999, Hassenfeld became wary and decided to hire an outsider, Herb Baum, as a COO to handle the operations side of the business and try to improve the fractured communication between Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive. Jackie Dyer was also hired as the CFO for Hasbro Interactive to supplement Dusenbury's poor financial skills. She immediately highlighted the poor financial recording processes and the overall state of the finances. Hasbro Interactive continued on this doomed path, as even with the addition of new leadership, few things changed within the subsidiary. Dusenbury decided that Hasbro Interactive should try to expand, and he acquired Games.com. This venture faced multiple problems, including the inability to staff the venture due to not being a competitive employer, and the maintenance cost of some of the games exceeding their revenue generation. In 2000, Hasbro Interactive made a loss, and in 2001 the division was sold off by the parent company Hasbro, and a third of the workers subsequently lost their jobs. Now, what can we learn from what has happened at Hasbro Interactive? We should start by highlighting the key issues: communication, employee well-being, and motivation. The lack of effective communication is one of the main factors that contributed to Hasbro Interactive's downfall. The lack of cross-functional communication was a clear factor impeding effective goal alignment between Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive. This is reflected in Hasbro Interactive's business decision to initiate a monopoly promotion with Burger King, despite Hasbro already having a monopoly promotion with McDonald's. The cross-functional communication was also hindered by the bureaucratic nature of Hasbro Interactive's decision-making. Mr. Dusenbury was given autonomy over all operational decisions for Hasbro Interactive, which fostered a controlled and centralized power and limited communication flow between business units. This was exacerbated by the lack of self-awareness demonstrated by Mr. Dusenbury. This impacted on the ability of Hasbro Interactive to accurately communicate its business positions and facilitated a poor decision-making process. As noted by senior executives from Hasbro Interactive, Mr. Dusenbury was a visionary, a motivator, an inspirer, and a promoter. However, he appeared to be in denial about his weaknesses in finance and operations. Not only was his head in the clouds, but Dusenbury appeared to be on another planet. This inability of Dusenbury to identify his weaknesses resulted in the communication of incorrect financial projections and played a significant role in incorrect business decisions. For functional organizational communication to be achieved, it is crucial the organization communicates amongst employees, as well as between different divisions and levels. The downfall of Hasbro Interactive was clearly connected to the extrinsic motivations of Mr. Dusenbury, who was primarily driven by his desire for professional advancement. Mr. Dusenbury's ambition, however, often clouded his judgment, and his self-serving tendencies caused him to make poor operational decisions, which culminated in the company's poor financial results in 1999. Mr. Dusenbury's uncontrolled ambition for career advancement made him vulnerable to inducements from Wall Street, which wanted the organization to increase its investment and market spread. These weaknesses were exacerbated by Mr. Dusenbury's overconfidence and ambition to gain favour with the board. Although extrinsic rewards in a work setting can increase productivity, over the long term, dominant extrinsic motivations are deficient, as they lack the creative possibilities of intrinsic motivations essential for improving overall productive outcomes. The corporate office, also inspired by the initial success of Hasbro Interactive, placed enormous pressure on Mr. Dusenbury and other Hasbro divisions to raise revenue targets to $1 billion within 3 years, despite their inability to meet previous targets. This extrinsic motivator of constantly having to meet profit targets, as well as Hasbro's generous bonus reward system when targets were met, encouraged a culture of greed. Employees modelled their behaviour on that of management, who were overtly extrinsically motivated by profit. The value placed on extrinsic monetary rewards and motivators also meant that highly skilled employees were later able to be easily poached by the upcoming .coms for larger remuneration packages. The poor cross-functional communication, the unstable financial climate, as well as the culture of greed, generated an everyone-for-themselves attitude, which negatively impacted employee well-being and morale. This has not only led to the demise of Hasbro Interactive and failure of projects, but has had other significant impacts, such as the underperformance and demotivation of employees, for instance, from not reaching revenue targets and having unrealistic goals. High turnover, such as the poaching of staff by other .coms. Job security and employee stress, which is generated by the rumours about takeovers, after profit losses, and the eventual takeover and layoff of 1/3 of development staff. So what are some of the strategies that Hasbro Interactive could have implemented to have prevented these issues from occurring? Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive could have implemented a monthly meeting with all the heads of the varying departments and executive team. The monthly meeting would rotate between Hasbro head office and Hasbro Interactive, and the chair of each meeting would rotate to ensure equity of power and employee voice. The aim of the meeting would be to develop information sharing and provide a forum to broaden the understanding of important organisational challenges by seeking employee input. This would promote organisational goal alignment and cross-functional communication between Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive. The meeting must have clear agendas, prioritising non-sales discussion to minimise the competitive nature of the business. Resolving employee issues and responding to feedback would need to be a constant key item on this agenda. The sustainability of this recommendation is reliant on increasing managerial accountability, and therefore, managerial KPIs that measure the resolution of employee issues must be implemented. An online corrective feedback loop also should have been implemented. When used effectively, it can be a catalyst for improving employee attitudes, engagement, and promote organisational change. Offering an online feedback loop would have assisted management to promote the message that they care about the values and ideas of the employees. It would help remove the bureaucratic style of management that has previously hindered Hasbro Interactive's communication, instead building a democratic style through encouraging discussion across all organisational hierarchical levels. Due to Hasbro Interactive teams missing deadlines and exceeding initial cost projections, it is clear that specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound goals need to be developed at both the division and organisational level. 6 monthly workshops conducted between senior executives and representatives from all divisions within the organisation would have been an effective mechanism in helping to formulate challenging and realistic long-term goals. To optimise effectiveness, this process would also have needed to involve adopting a humanistic approach, involving questioning employees about their personal motivations and aspirations. In doing so, Hasbro would have been able to implement a long-term strategy that sought to achieve both the organisation's objectives as well as meet employee needs. To ensure progress, goals needed to be simultaneously monitored and evaluated by integrating all goals into the quarterly KPI targets for each employee. Writing a goal plan at the end of each monthly meeting, which included details about short-term tasks as well as progress on foundation and capstone goals, would have been used to monitor this progress. This agenda would have motivated employees as it helped them focus on specific tasks and empowered them to develop their own skills and created internal motivation. Once a clear list of goals has been established, the team needed to identify obstacles in order to develop creative solutions and apply resources that would work to eliminate these pitfalls. The disregard of management for employee well-being, low morale and job security all need to be addressed to ensure a happy and motivated workforce. An Employee Assistance Program, or EAP, could have been developed to assist with this. Essentially, this service would have provided mental health support and training to employees, and would have acted to reduce stress levels, improve resiliency, and help employees manage pressure and change. This EAP would have entailed a confidential, face-to-face counselling support service available to employees at all times and free of charge. EAPs should be enshrined in company policy, as this would formalise the availability and the benefits of the program. The success would have been measurable by the number of employees who used the service and the reported stress levels through the feedback channels. By providing this support, Hasbro would have communicated the message that employee well-being was important and that employees were valued. In conclusion to today's lesson, Hasbro Interactive suffered from problems of communication, motivation, and employee well-being. However, with the implementation of the above recommended strategies regarding meetings, implementation of a feedback loop, SMART goals, and an EAP, Hasbro could have avoided this.